wanted to come back to this place while we do our grounding and invite you all to be present in this way. So, today's Heart Chakra Day. What would it be like to be here in your body and right now with your heart chakra in this space? And I'm going to invite you to feel yourself from your heart, sending love to and from your heart. Inhaling, exhaling from the top of your head down to the soles of your feet, allowing love to just fill you up. Can you think about what you are grateful for? What brings you joy? How you've been flowing and moving, and what is calling your heart today? And just inhale and exhale that gratitude, that love, that peace. And then just invite your body to be present and knowing all is well and you have everything you need. I'm going to invite you to take 3 more breaths in place of gratitude and love and peace of mind. I invite you to just be here and now with your mind and your body and your spirit and just embrace what you need and how you need it the way you need it. Inhaling and exhaling. All right. So again, my name is Fatima. I am the co-birther and leader of Love and Healing Work. Thank you all for coming to this experience today. I am going to be presenting. Excuse me. I am trying to get comfortable in a chair, and my headset's just dropped. So I am wanting to first introduce myself and then this work, and then from there we'll go into what I plan on covering today, and then we will go into the ask, and you can ask questions if you have any, for those of you who are watching. Okay, so I just want to say came up with how to leverage white privilege from a place of love and healing. It was from a place of wanting to change how people engage with what they call Black women, and recognizing that when people think of Black women, see Black women, engage with Black women, it's not always from this sense of wanting to protect and care for Black women. And this came because when Breonna Taylor was killed during, it was 2020, the world didn't, they didn't shut down. The world didn't get mad. The world didn't feel like a life had been taken in the same way that some of the men that were dying that summer had been advocated for. And I was into advocacy work, but I was absolutely tired of seeing Black women die. And it really only mattered to Black women and the families of Black women, but it didn't seem like the world cared about it. So thinking about something different, not going to marches or city council. What is the issue? And recognizing that it's the issue was people don't see themselves in other people because people don't see themselves. People don't take care of themselves. People don't honor who they are. People don't honor that we all have been given and sold this ideal or idea of race and all of these different artificial constructs that separate us. And the concept of white privilege is an artificial construct. It is a tool. It is something that can be utilized to create new tools. So we can't utilize master tools, as Audre Lorde says, to take down master's house, but we can utilize those tools to build other ones and create different systems that will take down master's house, if you per se. So one of those ways is how to leverage white privilege. It's a space for people that do identify as being white and get the concept of white privilege to unpack what white privilege has been given and taught by society as this inferior thing, to utilize this thing that was made up called white privilege to transform spaces, to make sure that people without the privilege have space to be free and to be themselves without feeling harmed because of microaggressions. And those microaggressions are usually because people aren't mindful of what they're saying and how they're saying it and why they're saying it in that way. So, this experience is to help navigate around race and have conversations about whiteness without shame or guilt, without victim or villain, without making people feel bad about terms and ways of being that they didn't play a role in creating, but they do benefit from. So, how do we have these really amazing, difficult, great conversations in a way that isn't harmful to ourselves and others? So, how to leverage white privilege came up because I was tired of being in spaces I was harmed by people that identified as white, and they only were harming me because they weren't aware of how their bodies are seen and how they are moving. And it's just a place of reflecting and being in consent with this concept of whiteness, which we will talk about. So, this I am someone who has worked with people that identify as white to move from being, let's just say, blissfully ignorant to actively creating space where Black and Brown people, like I like to call them, us, the global majority, don't feel harmed. So I know that this work happens and it's real, and I know that people can center their being and what they need. And when they do that, then they can see others. So in the 9-week course, we really dive deeper into the things that we're going to go over today. But I wanted to just be able to talk to you about why and how I leverage white privilege came to be. And then go into just the foundation of the work, if you will, and what it means to embody love and healing practices. So we talked about what it is. The flow of loving healing work is something that we created to um, set the tone of the space. So, a way of being love and the way of being love and healing and embodying love and healing, which you are, is honoring that uh, it's a practice and it's creating a container. So, we have our own loving healing practices, as you can see, and it's a way of helping people really connect to themselves deeper so that then they can engage in consensual relationships or relationships where parties get to agree on how they engage with one another from a place that isn't harmful to themselves or others. And the first way that we go into dealing with the flow is consent. So I've created invitations of engagement. You may have seen them, you may have not have seen them. Invitations of engagement are invitations that I've created to invite people to show up in a particular way. So the way that we go into this work is via consent. Consent, it serves as a cornerstone and foundation for not just your growth in business, but in your personal life. And what I mean by this is I use consent because a lot of businesses recognize the terminology, but it's really agreeing, being in agreement with all the parties that you are engaging in, including yourself. So asking oneself, what do you need? And then giving it to yourself. So a lot of times we are not in consent with ourselves because we can be hungry and tired and needing to rest and needing to stop, and our bodies will ask and say these things, but we will continue to do the things that our body says not to, which causes us to be out of consent with ourselves and others. Because if we're not listening to ourselves, how do we listen to others? So being in consent provides us with the space of saying, I'm checking in with myself, which is again the self awareness, to see if I can do this thing, and then doing the thing. A lot of times we're not in consent because we'll say yes on a Monday, and then 3 weeks later it's a no. And instead of going with the no, we go with the yes of 3 weeks ago. And today it's a no because there's a whole lot of things that may have happened, but it doesn't matter. Your no matters. What your no means matters. So honoring that you have a no, honoring that you know exists, and honoring that you're consenting with yourself when you listen to yourself. So, consent is the foundation of the work that we do here at Love and Healing Work. And in the 9-week course, we spend the first session on consent and the difference between discomfort versus harm. So, once people consent to engaging in a conversation, once people consent to engaging in a way of being, the next part is recognizing that change comes with being uncomfortable, and harm comes with needing reconciliation and healing. I'm going to pause, drink some tea. You all are drinking water out there. All right. So, thinking about a lot of times when we come to having to change ourselves or to grow, this is because we were uncomfortable in the situation that we were in. Now, the discomfort tends to birth change and growth and expansiveness and transformation. When we experience harm, harm tends to need healing and forgiveness, even if it's just for oneself. It's a process. When harm is caused, then there's processes that one must experience within themselves. And if they want to reconcile with the other person, there's processes that go along with that. It's like sitting in a chair for too long and you have to shift body, right? If I'm in this chair and I'm sitting in this chair, then I have to shift my body to become comfortable. Now, if I sit in this chair for days and hours, then I might cause my body harm, and there may be sores and things may happen. And so now my body may need some form of healing because I've been sitting too long. That's when sitting becomes harmful. So allowing ourselves to see where are we causing ourselves harm and where in our lives are we experiencing discomfort? And are we putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations to grow that is now being harmful, or and are we now so comfortable with harm we think that harm is comfort? Because a lot of us know harm more than we know what it's like to be in a place where we can breathe and be seen and be heard and be comforted. We know what it means to feel small and to not know space. So asking oneself, really, what does it mean to be this uncomfortable and harm? And so I use this picture from a march that I did. I actually assisted in curating for Sandra Bland in 2015. And Sandra Bland died in a Waller County jail in July 13th, 2015. And we did one of the largest marches in Austin, Texas. And this march made a lot of people uncomfortable, but there was no harm caused. Sandy had her own YouTube channel and she would talk about so many different things. But this quote is do what you can to be a positive light in someone's life. When we are moving consensually, like we talked about last slide, we are then moving in a way that isn't harmful because now we are engaging with a person from a self awareness and from an agreement perspective. So now that we're shining our light in people's lives consensually, we're not just being in a way that causes harm. When we are regulated, when we are consenting with ourselves, when we are sleeping, when we are in the now, when we are here, then we don't cause harm to ourselves and others. So when we look at the consent and then the difference between discomfort and harm, that's the foundation of doing the work around race. So we don't, in the 9-week course, we don't even talk about white privilege to probably the fourth week. The first 3 weeks, we really look at how are individuals engaging consensually with themselves. What does consent look like? What are consensual practices that they can set up, that you can set up so that you aren't causing yourself or others harm, and you're not allowing yourself to be harmed by others. Also, we really dive into what it looks like to be uncomfortable and what harmful is. This takes time to unpack, and we look at why we're uncomfortable. Where did we get these stories that this is harmful or this is uncomfortable? And we take time to sit with it. And then the next week, we go into our next portion. which is artificial constructs. Now, I chose, apologies, let's go back, please. Cool. So I chose this beautiful picture of amazing beings that I went to Sedona with. And we were at this retreat for Elevate Alliance, and the retreat was called Expand. Now, the retreat, excuse me, the retreat is for the women of Alliance and those that want to come to learn about various practices that align with Elevate Alliance, to connect and be in harmony and check on self and move from a heart centered place as a business owner. And so, in this retreat, as you can see in the picture, in the only body that the world will call a Black woman. And I'm in this space as the only because I feel safe enough to be. When I say safe, I mean I feel like I can be my full authentic self and not be seen by any microaggressions because the individuals are aware enough that they move through the world a certain way, I move through the world a certain way. And the idea is to be in consent with how we move so we're not harming ourselves and others. And they nailed it. This group also was a group that I did a How to Leverage My Privilege 6 month workshop with. And I genuinely believe that they got it and they're doing the work so that they can bring in more individuals that are of the gold majority, are conscious about um, the role of our artificial constructs without allowing it to cause them harm. And I look forward to it. But this was the first time that I was in this space um, as the only, and I really felt good. I didn't feel unseen. I felt like I belonged. And this is the work. And why is this picture connected to artificial constructs? Because race is an artificial construct. Um, Gender is artificial construct. Being a daughter, being a sister, any of these labels that are limiting are all artificial constructs. Whiteness is an artificial construct that came with various benefits and privileges if one was deemed white. That is a legal definition. That is something that can be found in various systems. People sat around a table and said, if you are white, then XYZ. So then that meant that if there was this artificial thing, this fake thing that was created, then it also could be destroyed. But because it's fake, it can be used as a tool. So for me, for example, I like to say that, um, like, because race is an artificial construct, being Black doesn't really exist, right? We've made Black a thing, and we've put people that look a certain way or move a certain way into this category of Blackness. And if you have the same values, beliefs, behavioral standards, or morals, that's how I define culture, then you are in the culture of Black. But I don't define myself as being Black. And what I mean by that is I am not Black. The world sees me as somebody who is Black, and I move in the world as someone that has had what they call the Black experience. But my being, I am not a Black being. That's two different things. The world created a concept called Blackness, and in the United States, that concept means less than. That concept means that I am separate from, and I rebuke all concepts that keep me from connecting to the unconditional love that exists within humanity. Yes, humans are out here losing their minds, they're treating people terribly, but does that not mean that I do not believe in humanity? I do. And I believe in humanity more than I believe in the artificial constructs that have been created by someone sitting in a room. These constructs people came up with and then gave definitions to, which then puts us in these unique boxes or maybe even circles or rhomboids or whatever. But whatever those shapes are, they're keeping us from that other shape. Because if I'm in my Black shape, my Black rhombus, and somebody is in their white square and someone else is in their Latinx triangle, we're all different shapes. And where do we come together as human beings having a human experience? We don't. People are so caught up in their artificial constructs, they can't see the harm that they're causing themselves or someone else. For example, the artificial construct of being a daughter or a child, and meaning that you put yourselves in harm's way for the sake of your parent. So, harm's way being your parent was very abusive. They call you names, they treat you bad, they're manipulative. But because you are their child, and society has said, because you are a child, therefore you fill in the blank, we're supposed to put ourselves out and harm ourselves for the sake of the construct. And I'm asking to denounce it. I'm asking us to really reflect on the constructs that we identify and move in and see how they serve us for the betterment of the all. And then ask, when do I use these constructs to the benefit of it all? Because that's what it means to utilize one's white privilege. It's to say that because I have this thing that they made up called white privilege, then I have access to opportunities and spaces that most people won't have access to, or definitely people that are of the global majority. White privilege, this thing that was created, the artificial construct of it, can be used to deconstruct all white spaces. I have been in all white spaces because people with white privilege have invited me in. I have been allowed to teach and guide people that move through the world differently because somebody with white privilege utilized that white privilege to vouch for me. White privilege is making sure people have access to spaces. It's not even always about money. If you know people that have space, and there's people of the global majority led organizations and businesses that don't have the revenue fund because it's been statistically made clear that Black and brown led organizations may not get the same money and funding that white body led organizations do. Then saying, okay, how can I leverage my privilege to give access to spaces for certain things? That's not going to put me in harm's way and also benefits the other person. A beautiful rasm is everybody wins. How do you create situations utilizing white privilege so that everybody wins? In the 9-week course, we do that. We have real conversations about what are the artificial constructs we've been led to believe are true and that we have to participate in. And then how do we use those constructs to create space for others? And in this case, specifically, how do you use white privilege? And some people are utilizing their white privilege without knowing it. But this is an opportunity to do it with consent, do it with intention, and doing it from a place that isn't harmful. Because sometimes utilizing your one's white privilege to aid others in a way that maybe the privilege said that needs to be aid doesn't help the people that need help. Because the people that need access to the privilege, they know the ways that they need access. I know at least I do. I always am like, can you vouch for me? Can you introduce me to this person? Can you tell this person that I'm great? Because other white body beings trust other white body beings especially when it comes to business, and then when it comes to these ideas that they may not have been taught. And a lot of people of global majority and people of white bodies are not accustomed to being led by people in this body. So it helps when somebody from your community vouches for the person that is outside the norm of that community. So again, artificial constructs, they come with limiting beliefs, and those limiting beliefs keeps us from really connecting with our humanity. And we dive deeper into that into the 9-week course. I'm gonna grab some more tea. All right, so the 3 practices that we utilize in loving healing work are cultural mindfulness, healing centered practices, and then human centered practices. Now, I've already started talking about the foundation of those practices with consent and discomfort versus harm, and artificial constructs. The overarching practices that we really dive into, each one having its own week in the 9 week program, is cultural mindfulness, healing centered, and human centered practices. This is live and y'all can't see this, but a spider just landed on my laptop. Very interesting. So I'm just going to blow it off. Don't know where it came from. Don't know where it's going, but I hope it has a great journey. It doesn't. Okay. So, what is cultural mindfulness? And why is it? So, mindfulness, we're talking about culture. So, first, let's define culture. And culture, the way that I like to define it, is one's behavioral standards, beliefs, morals, and values. And then going deeper into knowing where did you get these morals and values from? Do you still believe in these morals and values? Why do you believe in those morals and values and behavioral standards? And why and how, forgive me, and how do they impact how you engage with yourself and others? When we are mindful about why we move through the world the way that we do and how we move through the world the way that we do, we can then see others and knowing that they're moving with their own beliefs and their own values and their own behavioral standards and their own morals. Not saying that there's a right and mine is wrong. It's saying that, oh, you're seeing this from the perspective of your lived experiences, and your lived experiences have given you your values, your beliefs, your behavioral standards, and your morals. So, and thinking of culture from this micro place, not this macro place. So a lot of times we look at culture and we look at culture from this everybody, massive, a lot of people kind of thing, right? And I'm inviting you to think about it from this personal perspective of what is it that I believe? What is it that I value? Why do I value it? Who taught me these values? And then saying, do I still want to have these values? Do these values still serve me? The reason why I chose this picture on this slide is because this individual that this is me when I had hair, not wearing shoes. They told me that they don't work in the garden with shoes on. And so I, already not wearing shoes, was working in the garden. My friend, the person taking the picture, she had on shoes, so she's taking pictures. And he has on flip flops, but he's outside of the garden. Like I'm standing on on the dirt, planting seeds, and he's on the outside. That's his belief. His belief that it's gardening without shoes connects you to the earth and to what you're gardening, and it helps provide the energy for what you're planting. That may not have been my belief when I got to this man's garden, but it was when I was there. I respected it. I allowed myself to engage in the way that he wanted me to because it was his belief. My awareness of knowing I have my own beliefs of how people should engage in my space because that's my culture. Then I respect others who have their own beliefs and how they engage in space because it's their culture. So another example is I don't wear shoes. So when I come in the house, I put on socks so that I can wash my feet and walk around the house because the world is disgusting. And I think that, people should not wear shoes in the house because nobody washes the bottom of their shoes. And so you bring in everything that you have ever walked on outside, inside. And it's disgusting. I don't like it. So because I believe the world is disgusting and our home should be as clean as they possibly can because the world is disgusting, then people don't wear shoes when they come into spaces that I live in. That's my belief because I value cleanliness. I value a level of not having things everywhere and not having a sticky floor. I That's one of my values. I value that because when my space is clean and clear, I'm mentally clean and clear. That's my culture. Micro. On a macro level, that is not the culture of people in the United States. We people in the United States usually wear their shoes in the house. So it's always a me first. What do I believe? Why do I believe it? What do I value? Why do I value it? Where did I learn this from? And then the other thing that we unpack during this 9-week course is colonized consciousness. Because if you live in a country that's been colonized, as most of us have, we tend to believe what we were told by the systems that were created by the colonizer. In the United States, all of the systems were created by those that colonized the United States. Hence why we support warring instead of healing. People talk about warring and disparities and harm way more than they talk about how people are healing themselves, how they're connecting and collectively growing as community. We denounce what makes us human and we uplift the things that destroy us because our colonizers created systems where that's the reality. So knowing that a lot of what we believe is true came from colonizing people, and those people have placed their beliefs and their standards and their morals and their values into these systems that we all follow, like education system, the healthcare system, the legal system. All of these systems were created by our colonizers, which gives us ways of thinking. We go to a public school, even private schools, there's standards. Those standards are not really based on the humans connecting deeper emotionally and mentally and physically. Those standards are usually how long can you sit down? How long can you retain information? And then that puts you on a conveyor belt for the rest of your life, sitting down for 8 to 10 hours, working for somebody else that is going to be a billionaire and try to travel to the moon. Instead of asking yourself, where did I get this from? And if you learned it from a person, where did they get that from? So I have a degree in history, and a part of being a historian is knowing what your source is and where your source came from and what your source had access to. So I read about people of African descent, written by people of African descent that would have access to those lands and tribes and languages of African people, because that makes more sense than me reading a story from a person that has never been from the continent to the continent or the country and doesn't know anybody from the continent or country telling me about the continent or country in the book. That doesn't make sense. But we were colonized to believe people with these degrees and these things behind their names, but not to think, so but why do I believe them? What do they have to offer me? Where are they getting their information from? Why are they presenting this information in that way? When we unpack our consciousness, we start seeing that a lot of the things that we believe to be true isn't because we believe them to be true. It's because that's the way it's always been, or someone convinced us that that's the truth. But doesn't mean that that's our truth. It doesn't mean that's our belief. And knowing that when it comes to whiteness specifically, white people are bamboozled, because to be white means that you can't be Irish, you can't be Italian, you can't be Greek, you can't be any of those other things to be white. There's no connection to your ancestors, no connection to the way that you mourn, the way that you all celebrate, the way that you bring in seasons. Everybody had a way before we were colonized into this thinking of believing one superpower is the power. All of our people had a way. We were tribal people. All of us was. We worked together in our units. And when white body beings signed on to be white, then you signed on to let everything else go. Because of colonization, no one thinks about it that way because of the privilege that was given. It was like they gave you this fake privilege for something that was real. And what was real is a connection to your people, to the land, to the animals, to the way of being, to life, to your emotions, to your spirit, to your heart. We were all colonized to be stripped from our humanity. That's what being a human is. Being human is all of those things. And most of us don't know what that feels like because of whatever artificial construct we've agreed to participate in. I participate in the constructs when it benefits me or the whole. But if it don't, I'm not doing it. Don't make no sense. Don't make no sense. So we take time in our 9-week journey. That's why you have one-on-ones. I offer one-on-ones, three, as a part of it, to unpack and think about and assess and examine what we're talking about and these questions. Because at the end of every session, there's questions, there's invitations of engagement, is what I like to call them. Invite you to think about, why and the what for. Next is our healing centered practices. Again, I'm gonna take some water and look around and see where this spider friend may have gone, and making sure that it's not on me or any other thing that I may be touching or utilizing. Okay, so human-centered practices, healing-centered practices actually are practices that some people will call trauma informed, but it takes it another step. So, and there's different definitions in human design, and out there, but I like to utilize the definition that aligns with being trauma informed. And what that means is a lot of people create trauma informed places, spaces, which is great because it lets people know that people experience trauma. Amazing, but it doesn't push the button towards the healing. So, yes, we know that everyone has experienced trauma. And also, how do we then heal from those traumas? And how do we create spaces where healing is possible? So, healing centered practices are like the grounding that I do before every experience. If you logged in, you didn't get the grounding because I switched platforms. That's neither here or there. So, when we open up spaces with grounding practices like deep breath, or meditation or affirmations, that allows the body to be regulated. It allows for us to move from a place where we're not in the fight, flight, freeze response. And also, it honors that people are coming in with their own triggers and their own beliefs. And when you have healing centered practices, it makes having uncomfortable conversations easier because you're focused on the healing. You're not focused on the problem. You're not focused on the trigger, you're focused on the healing. So, as a part of utilizing one's white privilege, is knowing that there's spaces that aren't always healing for certain types of bodies, or there's spaces that are very triggering and traumatic for certain types of bodies. And knowing that, how do you plan for it? How do you honor it? How do you acknowledge it and make space for it? Consensually, of course. You do it with consent. And you create space so that everyone feels seen, heard, and know that they belong. And you can do that by asking questions so you're willing to create that space. This is all everything is about consent. Consent with oneself first. And when you're in your business and in lives, it allows us to empower individuals to actively choose how they engage, foster respect in lives. It allows people to understand um, each other and themselves in ways that they probably wouldn't have, because we are conditioned to believe that we have to keep on doing work, we have to be productive, we have to keep on going. All of these things we're conditioned to believe. But what if we can just show up as our true, authentic self? Knowing that harm can be caused, things can happen, and we also get to choose. Being healing centered. So if you're not there, it always goes the same way. So loving healing work, whether I'm guiding a space or not, there will always be grounding. There will always be human connection in the beginning of every experience, because that's healing. And not from a place of my artificial construct. I'm not coming from a place of being a healer. I'm not coming from a place of being a lawyer. I'm not coming from a place of being any of those things. I'm just coming to a place of being Fatima. And as Fatima, I like spaces that honor my human first, and the human experience and what comes with the human experience. And that's human centered practices. And human-centered practices, see, this is something that honors all the different types of humans in your space, including you. You are a human. And so when we are practicing from a human-centered place, we are checking in with ourselves, hence the cultural mindfulness portion. We are checking in to see what our beliefs are, what our values are, what our morals are, what our behavioral standards are from the artificial constructs that we agree and identify with and the ones that we don't. And then saying, okay, what does the human need? Well, my human needs space to process information. My human needs the opportunity to provide input on things that are going to impact me and my job and my day. My human needs space to be regulated, to have people that are regulated. Those are things that my human needs to exist. So, in having that need, the practices that I create and help businesses create are foundationally based on my needs as a human, because why not start there? And then it's based off of the foundation of the humans that will be impacted by the decisions made. So a lot of people call this horizontal decision making. I like to call it collective decision making, because it involves the collective of individuals that are going to be impacted by decisions. Anytime that you are offering a training procedure, anything that is going to change how people do something, everybody should be involved. This picture that I chose is a picture of law enforcement, community activists, and community organizers and volunteers coming together during COVID to pass out food and groceries to a community in Austin, Texas. When the idea came to me to do, I thought about all the different humans that were going to be impacted by the decisions that we were making, and I asked them, and they had an opportunity to give input on it. And we did it in the way that all the individuals that were going to be impacted, it made sense. That brought ease. I've been learning that ease and pleasure can be a part of business. And we are centering humans, we are centering what will be at the most ease for us to implement the thing. And honestly, it's asking all the people. And all the people may not participate in it. And that's not the point. It's be providing people an opportunity to participate, knowing that if they do want to provide anything, they can. It's their option. It's their prerogative. It's their choice. It's you then again consenting. You're creating a consensual relationship so that there's no harm caused. You're mindful of people's values, morals, behavioral standards, and beliefs. You have seen your own artificial constructs and recognize that the artificial constructs that come with how you present in the world may come with triggers. So you're always coming into the space with something that is healing to honor the humans and how they're flowing with the information. See what I did there? Whiteness, again, is an artificial construct. We are all humans first. All humans first, not the labels. So honoring each human and their lived experiences as we're building is important, and creating space for it. So when you leverage your white privilege, you're doing it from the place of how does it benefit the humans and us all? That's the place. What's the all? How is my actions benefiting the all? When we are moving from a place of honoring our human and the humans around us, we don't cause harm. And again, we spend a lot of time diving into these healing and human centered practices. So, the benefits of implementing love and healing practices in your business, it creates a sustainable place of belonging. And sustainable being, now you're incorporating it into your policies and procedures, your new hiring training, your job descriptions. You are allowing yourself to identify different traits and ways of being that align with your vision and mission as a business and an organization. So then you have this improved well-being and productivity. Again, when people are seen and they're here, they know they belong, they're willing to show up. They're willing to do the work. They're willing to be more involved in what's happening. When you do these things, you enhance your relationships and your collaborations with people. Your customer satisfaction and loyalty goes up because the people that are engaging with your people are happy and full because you've seen them. You created space of non harm. You work in agreement with them. There's a resilience and adaptability that happens with yourself and with others because now you are moving through different discomforts and different harms in a way that aligns with your mission and your vision. And then your business and you get a positive reputation and brand. Elevate Alliance, I generally know their work that they have done. To me, they have a positive reputation with me and individuals that look like me from my perspective only. I can't talk for everybody, but they've done a good enough job for me to vouch for them. That's my privilege. In my community, I have a privilege. People trust when I say an organization is a good organization to support, they tend to trust my decision making because they know that a lot goes into it. White privilege is the same thing. You use it and then you put it down. It's not something that you wear all the time. You just actively engage with it as a tool. So you can get in touch with us. This is my information. You can sign up for the 9-week course today. All of that information is on the linked tree. If you want to engage more, please just email me. I'll be happy to send the link. Because this is recording, I will send this out to everyone that did register for How to Leverage White Privilege to Transform Harmful Spaces. And again, I'm Fatima. I just really hope that you learn more about what we do and the How to Leverage White Privilege course, but you see and know that it's love work. It's love and healing work. What I'm inviting people to do is to be in consensual relationship with themselves, which is really being in a non-harmful relationship with yourself, so that you can be in a non-harmful relationship with others. And I am just aiding and creating space for people to do that. And there's a track for people of the global majority, so that we can, unpack anti-blackness and how we show up in our colonized consciousness. And then there's a place for people of that identify as white bodies to do their own work with whiteness, which is how to leverage white privilege to transform harmful spaces. There's one-on-one sessions with me, and then there's just love and healing leadership development, which brings in both parties, but the prerequisites are the love and healing work development for people of the majority, and then how to leverage white privilege to transform harmful spaces. So I invite you to connect with me, even if it's just to learn more about me and the work. I love meeting new people and learning what you all are doing and how you are taking care of yourselves and how you're loving on yourselves. So again, thank you so much for being here. My name is Fatima. You are amazing. You are enough. You are everything in all things. Please remember to celebrate yourself, celebrate your wins, celebrate that you aren't who you were before and you are working towards your goals and you have made your goals. Celebrate that. Celebrate you because you deserve it. I hope you are well. Drink water and take care of yourself.